Oh, man.
Hey, Old Man on the Mat crew. This is Tony Jones coming at you with another great episode of Old Man on the Mat. Guys, I'm excited, guys. Before I get started, I do want to say I appreciate you guys once again for all the support you've been giving us. You guys, our merch is flying off the shelf. You know, our new rash guards are out. We had it in bulk when we first ordered them, but we have just a couple left, and this is no joke. So we had to put in new orders. You can find all our merch at oldmanonthemat.com, at oldmanonthemat.com. But guys, today's a whole new day. I'm excited. I just finished doing a great training after being off the mat for 3 weeks of sickness and injury. I would say it was an amazing time. But to be honest with you, it hurt a lot. So there's that. But guys, our guest today, I'm excited about our guest today. This guy, I found this guy because he does one of the arts that I started out, one of the beginning ones that I started out with was Aikido, and I enjoy this, one of my foundations, and I enjoy that art. But this guy is really cool. The guy is a 5th degree black belt in Hanmudo. He's a 3rd degree black belt also in Taekwondo. And he's a blue belt in Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. And as we were talking a few minutes ago, I found out some more cool stuff about him with archery and all that fun stuff. So we're going to jump in this, guys. He's not only the owner of the Harvest Concept Martial Arts, he's also in one of my favorite places on earth, which is in Tennessee. He's in Franklin, Tennessee. And with that, guys, I give you Justin Martin, guys. How you doing, brother?
I'm wonderful, sir. Thank you so much for having me on the show, Tony. Appreciate you.
Hey, man, when I tell you what, listen, I appreciate you doing what you're doing. I'm looking at your credentials, and like we were saying one day, one reason I found you was I'm always looking for interesting people. And, Hapkido is, I'm seeing this coming out there. I see more and more of it, but I mean, through the years, I haven't seen too much Hapkido. You see just Taekwondo, and I saw that, and I'm thinking, I got to talk to this guy, see if he gets beat up the same way I do.
Yeah, it's not the most pleasant of all times, right?
Right?
Man, I never thought I would get shin splints in my arms before, but I do remember that. It was like preparing for I think it was my 1st degree black belt test in Hamudo, and one of my partners was working through a set, and I woke up one morning and was like, "Oh my God, I cannot move my hands!" Right?
Right?
This is the feeling of shin splints in my forearms. It's terrible.
Something you won't recommend, right?
No. Yes.
Yes. Man. So what started? When did you start this journey? Because how old are you right now?
I am 42, sir. 42.
All right, you're 42, so we're about the same age. I like to say that, but I'm a little older. We're about the same age. But man, when did you start? How did it all start? You get beat up in school one day and said, "Mom, I got to learn how to fight," or how'd it go?
I feel like I was not that person. I grew up in a place that I didn't worry about myself getting beat up too much. I've always been on the friendly side of people, I feel like. I was just always maybe had this little inkling in the back of my mind that I really loved martial arts culture. I definitely have always loved the art side of it and seeing people be able to move their bodies. And so I think that kind of drew me in to it as a kid. Where I grew up in Tennessee, just south of Nashville, there was not a lot of options for me. It was a very small town when I was young. And so the closest martial arts facility was a karate studio about 20, 30 minutes away from my house. And so, it was very difficult to convince parents to make that a habit. I think it was a very short-lived stint that I had in the local karate studio, which was it was actually a David Deaton studio.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
And so he, got to go, and, I don't know exactly how far I made it, but I know it wasn't very far because, again, it just wasn't in my family's ability to schedule that at that point in time.
Gotcha.
But once I got to middle school, I was able to start wrestling. And so that was a really foundational time for me, just having really good coaches, getting to compete in state tournaments, and just enjoy that side of things was a really big part of my life. And so I think that definitely created a lot of foundational self-discipline for me and allowed me to continue to search out martial arts as I became an adult and was really able to see what was around me,
Okay. So you're basically, I'm not going to say a self-made guy, which no one is, but I mean, like, you motivated yourself to go out there and keep trying to find this stuff and to go from there.
Yeah, I think so. I hear the stories. I actually, checking back after I talked to you the first time, going back and listening to your podcast and listening to other martial artists, and, they have this I don't want to say wonderful bully story, but everybody has this like pivotal bully story or pivotal moment where they realize, hey man, I'm not safe and I need to protect myself. And I was
Yeah.
just thinking like, I don't have that. I did get beat up and I did have problems with people. And, I have a moment where a guy grabbed me by the throat one time and just
Oh,
really
jeez.
held on to me. And it's in the back of my mind, but it never was like, ooh, I got to go learn to beat that guy up on the
Right.
backside of it. It just, that wasn't where the mindset came from. To me, it was always just like, ooh, that guy moves so well. I want to be
Right.
able to move like him, right?
Well, you need to make up a good story. You got to have a story where you save like 9 nuns at middle of the night fighting with these nuns or something.
Yeah, I gotta get creative, huh? Right.
Right,
It's important.
exactly. But I tell you what, your mindset, I tell you, when you see martial arts coming through, and I talk to different people, if you say you listen to some of the podcasts, yeah, a lot of those have that. But then again, there's guys who just love the art.
Mm-hmm.
And I see that's what you did. And it was your first art that you really dove in, that you other than wrestling and the karate. Was it Taekwondo that you jumped in first? Because I usually see that as the trail.
No, so I got into Kali. I was into Pakiti Terja,
Oh,
and
wow.
so I got a good group of rough and tumble guys that wanted to stick and knife fight all the time,
Oh,
and
wow.
that was a blast, blast to the fingers a lot.
Yeah.
But we were having a great time training, but as I started or continued that training, got deeper into it, started going to some seminars and learning from instructors outside of my instructor, even the Filipinos, that I was just kind of slightly turned off about how aggressive and ultra violent it was.
Okay.
Always talking about stabbing somebody and this, that, and the other. And, just again, my mindset wasn't there. And so I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed all the drills, the fast pace, and even just that element of danger that you're always in when you're fighting with
Right.
sticks and stuff. But one of the guys showed up in classes one day and he grabbed my hand and did a Hapkido or a Hanmido wrist lock on me in that Kali class. And I said, oh man, that was cool. What was that?
Yeah.
And so he turned me on to a local Taekwondo school at the time here in Franklin that was teaching a very broke down version of Hanmudo. So he
Okay.
was a Taekwondo school, but he had this class that was once a week, and he was teaching some very basic element stuff out of it. None of the throws. It was maybe some basic wrist locks, some chokes, but they weren't even really practicing falling at that point in time.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
and so it really was kind of a Taekwondo self-defense class.
Yeah.
And that class fell apart after I started taking it with him. And I just kind of fell into Taekwondo at that point in time of, oh man, well, I like to work out, I like sparring, so we can keep going with this path. And so I ended up teaching in his school for about 6 years.
Oh, wow.
And learning, at that point in time, oh man, there's actually like a job to be had here. At first it started just picking up some classes to train for free,
Yeah.
but then, oh man, you want to hire me on as your full-time guy? So I got to do that perspective. I feel like one of my specialties has been through the years is the business element of things.
Okay.
And so I've been a part of multiple startup businesses, mostly restaurant businesses.
Oh, wow.
And
Okay. Yeah.
and before that I worked for Friday's Corporate, and I was a trainer for them. And so I had this understanding of how to teach things and how to work with people. And so it became kind of a natural thing. Oh, I enjoy martial arts, so I can teach this also. And so,
Wow.
it really flowed well for me to go from one to the other. And once my brain started working, I said, oh, this is good.
Okay.
And so I can move forward with this, right? Long story short, me and my teacher had that inevitable falling out that happens between some of us. And he moved on his ways, and I moved on my ways, and then got asked if I wanted to start a Hanmido school. So that's where I stepped forward.
Wow, that's pretty cool, man. But you touched on it. You're right, and I think over the years that I've started since I was 8 years old doing all this stuff, and I've seen schools break up and stuff, and I think it's always an ego thing, and what it always usually be from the head instructor there, and I don't understand why that is. I'm not taking not saying taking the blame off other guys, but what I've seen over time is usually the head instructor guy, maybe jealousy or don't want to lose the light and that kind of stuff. But man, your journey's been pretty cool, man. So you started out in business first. Okay, because I know a lot of guys do it the other way around. They feel like they can't make any money in martial arts, so they get out of the martial arts, go to business somewhere.
Well, it's tough, man. It's a tough world to live as a martial arts instructor, right?
Yeah.
And
Oh yeah.
we talk a lot on this side of it with the people that are around me right now, in the sense that you know when especially the Koreans were spreading these arts, they weren't focused on money initially. And
Right.
so now, how do we more morally continue to spread this moral art while also trying to make it a monetary business,
Oh yeah.
so it's an interesting
It
dichotomy.
it really is. And I tell you, you see, and I've followed different arts and I've seen, Taekwondo. And I would tell you, remember, because you did mention karate. So back in the
Mhm.
day, I would say back in the 70s and, 80s and stuff, karate was, hardcore street fighting thing.
Yeah.
And then as things start transitioning, I noticed that over the last few years, Taekwondo has grown so fast. And I think that art style has basically figured this thing out because they make great money doing what they're doing.
Hmm.
And they create it as a business, and I watch all the things and I've seen, because you see other styles trying it, even Brazilian Jiu Jitsu trying to
Hmm.
copy off of Taekwondo.
Yeah.
Do you think the Koreans just decided to, what, we have a great art here, let's make a living out of this, or no?
I don't know that that's the Koreans that
Okay.
are doing that. You know, there's there are a lot of people that have great business minds, right?
Hmm.
And they've learned from one thing, and they are learning to fuse it into something else.
Okay.
I was talking to another friend of mine who's a therapist, and I know I'm totally taking you off subject. We're supposed to be talking about
No,
training, and we're talking about business.
brother, we
But
fly this wherever it goes, man. They get to
okay.
know you.
Okay. Yeah. I was talking to a friend of mine, and she's a therapist. And so she was discussing kind of her weekly workload and how she kind of spans her clients out and how she makes her money and budgets off of that with her business. Right. But with martial arts, we're kind of one of the original subscription based businesses. Right. And so now
Yeah.
everything is subscription. And so, but we, as a business, that's something that has always been part of us. It's that monthly
Yeah.
payment, that we base everything off of. And so the fusion for us is we have to figure out how to not just do that, but supply our schools with extra money. What can we see that other people are doing, and how can we bring that money into our academies to make it run more efficiently, or to put more money in our pockets so you're not stressing every month? I think
Right.
that's such a big part of it.
That really is. Now, do you have a set program you use, or one that you created? Do you have one of those, like there's so many different programs out there I've seen. Do you have one that you created, or you follow a certain system for your
As far,
business model?
as far as like a curriculum, or as far as like a software.
Software
um
business model, one that you can say, you know what? I'm not saying you don't have to. You can if you want. I don't care. I was just saying,
yeah,
give
sure, sure,
give
sure.
give kudos to these guys. But I'm just saying, is there a system that you created, or is your creation, or you said, you know what? Let me learn from these guys and follow their method, like the McDonald's kind of thing. You put a McDonald's on
Yeah.
the corner, it's going to be successful.
They do. The franchise is definitely, or a franchise, or even a corporate store, they have a model, right? They go in,
Right.
these are the rules, this is how we're going to train everybody, this is the way it works. And no, I don't have that.
Okay.
I
Okay.
I
Gotcha.
I'm a Hamido Association school, and as a Hamido Association school, we are given basic rules, but very, very lax, or open in our association,
Okay.
meaning that you go to the different schools around the United States or different schools around the world, and they all have a little bit different appearance. We have our basics that we have to follow our rules, right?
Right.
But then, as that association, the schools are all different in how they handle their daily business, but
Okay.
we all follow the same curriculum. We're all
Gotcha.
trying to provide black belts to the association, is what I would
Gotcha.
consider my job. And so the great thing is that, yes, we are all teaching the same curriculum. We're trying to get our all students to all look the same or be able to perform the same at a black belt test.
Hmm.
But the way we get them there is all uniquely our own, in that
Okay.
sense.
Okay. That's pretty cool. How many students do you have? If you don't mind me asking, which I'm gonna ask anyway. But
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Somewhere between 150 and 170 students
oh,
train
that's
here.
a
Yeah,
successful place, man. Pretty
thanks, sir.
good, especially in Franklin, Tennessee. I don't know. That's not a big place, though, right?
It's growing. It's pretty big here. Way different than 1980s when I was trying to take David Deaton karate.
Ah, gotcha.
There's competition is very tough here,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of martial arts schools in a very tight pocket,
Ah,
and so Jiu Jitsu is definitely king right now of drawing
yeah.
attention to itself, right? And
Absolutely.
so
Yeah.
they're definitely battling it out, and the schools around me have built themselves up in really the last probably 6 years.
Okay.
When I started my school, the closest other academy was about 5 miles away,
Wow.
and now I would say there's five too close. So there's 5 now around me within that 5 mile
Wow.
pocket.
That's yeah. They're in your
So
back pocket right there.
yeah, exactly. So
Oh yeah.
essentially what I tell people when people are looking at starting a school is, hey, where you got to look at all your surroundings and where your people are coming from.
Yeah.
And, this market's here is kind of, I don't want to say cutthroat because it's not like we're doing battle, but like
Yeah.
we're fighting for students, and
Oh yeah.
we're cutting each other off, in this little Tetris wall situation
Yeah. I
of
get
streets,
it. Yep. I get it. I get it. Because out here also, I had a studio for almost 10 years out here.
Hmm.
And it was literally you throw a rock because I'm in Illinois, and you throw a rock, and there was a school there.
Right.
So what I tried to do is try to work with the other schools, and we're not in competition because guess what?
Hmm.
Some of my students going to like my system, some's going to like yours, and
Right.
I never badmouthed any school. Oh, except for one guy, he was a jerk, but don't worry about that. But I never badmouthed any school. Just like, yo, you guys try the guy, great guy. Tell him Tony sent you.
Yeah.
Looking for a referral. No, I'm just joking. But you know what? I was looking at your stuff, man. Like, wait, one thing I want to say, I want to go back to something you mentioned.
Mhm.
You were talking about the therapist that you talked to. Just a friend of
Yeah.
yours,
Yeah.
just passing business. Now, this is what I've seen that I started seeing because I've been studying Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for a couple years. I mean,
Sure.
nothing like these 20-year guys or anything. I'd say a little bit longer than that. Been studying Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and and I find that most people are using it for it's not just self-serving, but like therapy.
Hmm.
Do you find that same thing in Hapkido or in your style out there? People just use this therapy because I know that sounds weird, but you have a stressful day. Life isn't going straight, but you can always step on the mat and just forget about the day.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that the term therapy or self-care,
Yeah.
that definitely can be used here. And for sure, even myself, I know that, I have 2 kids, so 8 and 5. That's those can be my stressful day. That can be a stressful hour, right? And
Oh
so
yeah.
the idea of being able to just go in and be a student in a class, that's always the most refreshing feeling, I think, that you can have, right?
Oh
Then
yeah.
on top of that, you have so many students that come into these martial arts schools that they're looking for a change in their lives, right?
Yeah.
And so a change doesn't happen just by, hey, cutting out bread for 2 weeks or,
Right.
doing this little small change. A change happens over time. And that's why, a black belt takes time to get to. That's why it takes time to work through these different systems because they're looking for that foundational change in your body, in yourself, right? Not
Right.
just in that some techniques or how to kick high. This is we gotta know that your mind is right, that your spirit's gonna get there, that all the things are gonna fall into place, and you're gonna be able to move through life as a better person, right? And so,
Right.
absolutely, these are therapy sessions, and then on top of that, the culture of the school is so important, right?
Oh, absolutely.
The
Absolutely.
people that surround it that are checking in on you. Hey, man, you're looking a little down today. You all right? Like,
Yeah.
you're gonna
Yeah.
smile with them. You're gonna get that move with them, and they're gonna, you're gonna feel good together. And so that's absolutely. It's like it's therapy, but it's also group therapy, right?
Yeah, it is. I like that. It is group therapy. Yeah, man. Because you're
Yeah.
on the mat with so many different backgrounds, and you don't know what people are going through throughout the day, and you have the struggles you have, and so when you step on the mat, man, I think you hit the nail right on the head when you said, people check on you,
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
when this was 5 years ago, 4 years ago, when I was, well, 5 years. So I guess I've been in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu longer. So
Hmm.
at my age, it just all goes in one day. It all hurts. But
Sure.
so, the people that I started with over Lake County, and I've said this before, I think they were like therapists for me. Not where they sat down and counseled me or anything, but I think it just helped me because I was going through a rough time. That they would call me and check on me all the time.
Sure.
Just
Yeah.
hey, and we get on the mat, we talk, we have a good time, and that was so helpful. And I start seeing that quote unquote therapy mindset that I start seeing people use it for. It's really cool, man.
Mm-hmm.
Oh
Yeah.
man.
Yeah. I like that.
Yeah. Now, I see that you also do personal training. And I think in my mindset, that works well with martial arts. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's a different mindset to the personal training, not just the normal gym mindset.
Yeah.
And so to me, I think that my clients that come in here to see me are looking for something different.
Yeah.
Maybe they've tried the traditional gym, maybe they've tried the personal trainer in the traditional gym. They've tried different things to make it work for themselves and just haven't been able to stick a change. And so they come in. I have that stand-up fighting, Taekwondo, kickboxing background. So to me, doing heavy bag work is a fun way to do cardio. And so most of these clients that come into me for that are coming in, and we're doing a mixture of heavy bag work and then kettlebell work.
Oh,
And so,
kettlebells. Okay. Yeah. Now,
Yeah.
when you do you have I didn't mean to cut you off. But,
No, you're good.
I was excited hearing kettlebells. I was just like, oh, kettlebells, yeah, because you don't hear that much,
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Now, do you have a set thing you do for each student that comes in there, or is everybody different? Let me back up first. Do you have
Sure.
more children or adults in your dojang?
There's a if we cut it in half, it's going to be a bigger kids population overall.
Okay.
We have a lot of adults that train here in a lot of different programs. And so I'd say that if I looked at a list of adults and kids together, that the kids are probably going to be like a 65% to that adult.
Okay. Yeah.
35%,
Yeah.
But my adults, I work with them a lot more. There's, I have the private people, I have people here in just, again, different programs. We have a lot of adult black belts that are here as instructors and stuff now too. So our adult program is big and thriving, but the kids program is definitely healthy too.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I see that a lot of places. I think, with kids, because adults, I think we've crossed a certain point where we feel, I don't need anything. But a lot of us are still in there. But I see kids that need these kind of programs a lot.
Absolutely.
A great deal. Now, when you have someone come in, do you have a set thing you do for everybody, or do you have each person is a little bit different? I'm going to show this guy this in the beginning. I'm going to get him to train this way, or is it cookie cutter almost? Not the negative side of cookie cutter, but
Sure. Yeah. No, I think we have set practices of how to show people things, but everybody's going to be kind of individualized in the format of how their training goes. If I'm talking to you about my personal training stuff, then I have a lot of clients here that are all with different goals, whether it be weight goals, whether it be just mobility goals, or even I have some clients that I teach more the meditation / art side of what I do. And so we're just working through forms or sword work. And so everybody has their goals of what they need and what they want to achieve. When I'm talking about my classes where I'm teaching Hamudo and I'm trying to get people through the Hamudo system, teaching them this curriculum, teaching them how to move, teaching them how to fall safely, spar, all the things, then we have that curriculum base that we work from. And we at Harvest try to have a good number of instructors to students on the floor. And so we're very big on also bringing up that youth leadership. And so I'm trying to constantly get my teenagers getting ready for going to high school so I can say, okay, man, you're turning 16, you got a car, like, let's get you working. And I'm always trying to draw them in. So I have them for a couple of years, hopefully before they go to college. And then, we have an adult population that's here and teaching. And so they're working in and following that curriculum too.
That's cool, man. Okay.
Sure.
Now, I see that you do, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. We mentioned that before. Now, what made you decide to do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu? Because if you listen to one of mine in the beginning when I talk about it, my instructor, which was, Kodokan Jiu-Jitsu, that was my first black belt.
Sure.
His philosophy was, hey, you have a foundation, but every art has holes. So go find, you have a brown or black belt in one art, that's your foundation, but you find things to fill those holes,
Sure.
in your fighting system or whatever it is. Is that the reason you started Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, or just, hey, I'm out of something else? This looks really cool.
Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So similar, my teacher is Dojim Hyung Kim, and he founded Hamudo, but he also talks about how everybody should have two minors. So you have one major, and now you have two minors. And so same thing, holes in the game, right?
Yeah.
And his judo teacher taught him that. So a few years ago, 2 years ago, we were approached by a Brazilian gentleman, Andre Mateus, and he came in. He's a fifth dan now, or not fifth dan, a fifth degree in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and so he was in the area and wanted to start teaching his students again. And so I gave him a space in my school to start teaching here.
Okay.
And so with that part of the process, I said, this is a good place for me to be a student again and just get in and roll around on the mat. I have been, I would say, in and out of jiu-jitsu seminars, rolling in classes for years, just never had a formalized and consistent training basis, right? But having that wrestling background, I've always enjoyed the ground side of things, and so it just kind of fell into place naturally. Yeah,
that's awesome, man. But you mentioned wrestling a couple times. I just want you to know, for the record, I hate you guys. Okay, I'm just saying it out there, because when I was in college at Iowa State, and I was on the judo team, and once a month we would go against the wrestlers. And you guys would just tie us up in all kinds of knots, and I hated you guys for all these years. So
and just be heavy on you, right?
Exactly, man. It's like you guys always had that, when everybody's exhausted, you're exhausted too, but you have that extra step.
I feel like it's to some degree, like judo and stuff didn't really have the weight classes probably at that point in time, or as stringent, right?
It was just straight belt level, and that was it.
Yeah, so like I feel like a lot of my discipline / just that indomitable spirit came from having to cut weight and then wrestle, right? And so it's like you're not just wrestling, you have a whole nother like weight on your shoulders that you're dying inside, and you're dehydrated and starving, and then you're having to fight. And so that was it just adds to it, compounds it, right?
But let me tell you, you might be in your age group, you're 42. Have you seen the movie Vision Quest?
Vision Quest. I don't think I have seen Vision Quest. I'll write it down right now.
You go watch that movie. It's an older movie. I think it's back in the 80s. And my gosh, it's with Matthew Modine, and it's about high school wrestling. It's one of the, love story, the hero and the villain. It's just a great movie, man. I'm telling you, will love it. Wrestlers, man, and it's the stuff they talk about in there. I'm like, I remember those conversations getting beat up. This is great.
Yeah.
Vision Quest is still one of my favorite movies outside of Princess Bride. Shut up.
Man. Nice one. Nice one.
See, you're there too.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, man. So now we mentioned, I know you told me before how you got into archery, but I want to hear that more, because I know I enjoy archery. I've tried it a little bit. I'm not proficient by any means, but I think it's really cool. What got you into archery?
Sure. Years ago, I got a bow as a part of a trade. I was trading a motorcycle away, and this bow came to me. And so I ended up, my father-in-law is big into hunting, and so I got him to help me get the bow all set up, and I started shooting in my backyard. And so that was fun, but I didn't really have any major goals with it. But then in 2020, when everything was hitting the fan and we're just trying to make things exciting for students, we were looking for things that we could do outside that would kind of flip things around. And our Hamudo curriculum in the advanced black belt levels or master levels, there's actually archery curriculum. And so we said, okay, well, let's see if we can pull some of this archery curriculum out and see what we can do for students. And so we started digging in, and pretty quickly we were able to work with my higher ups and my instructors and say, okay, how do we apply this to a younger group, and also how do we apply it to beginners? And so we started shooting horse bows outside at that point in time. So right in 2020, and I guess almost 4.5 years ago, and it kind of just took off. And so we didn't really expect it, but at the same time, when it started taking off, we said, oh man, we have to maybe make this a little bit more legit. So we're not just out here standing in a field with bows and arrows and kids and all the things.
Right.
And so,
here, hold the apple, kid.
Yeah, it was, it's kind of scary for a second when we were just trying to learn it, but then we kind of dug back in and said, okay, what do we need to do? And so we said, we really need some certification or some really good understanding of how to teach. And so myself and my assistant, Melissa, we went back and communicated with USA Archery, the people that sponsor the Olympic team, and coached them. And so there's levels. We got to a second level archery coach or level 2 archery coach. And that really helped a lot for us to develop the program. Okay. And so, we went from there and went back to U.S. Taekwondo Association, and then also talked to instructors in Europe. Our group in Europe, they've been big in archery for a number of years, and so talking to them and drawing that information from them, we were able to really kind of flesh out a program and run it pretty solid. And so at first it just kind of came as a need to make people have something fun to do and just to be out together outside. And then it kind of turned into this whole other thing. And again, flash forward let's see here. It was January 2023. I was in Atlanta. We were teaching a Hamido seminar there. We were at Dojin Kim's house, and he had an instructor that is another Korean art, but he specializes in horseback archery. So he was giving the first levels of teaching horseback archery right there. And I was standing next to him, and we had a really close near miss of him showing how to not knock an arrow, and it came off and hit me in the glasses. And I'll have to send you a picture of this too.
Yeah,
but my lens, my Ray-Ban glasses saved my life saved at least my eyeball, because the arrow hit my lens of my glasses and then scraped all the way across it.
Holy God.
I couldn't see it at the time because it was just right in front of I could see the blur, right? But I couldn't see how bad the scratch was. And I feel like everybody else in the room was like, oh my God, what's going on here?
Oh man.
I was trying to go through it, but no, it was good.
Man.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
This past summer, we were back in Atlanta again. We were riding horses that time, actually on horseback and shooting bows. So it's been a fun ride for sure.
Oh man. So do you have a standalone curriculum for that program?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's wholly separate now. Absolutely.
That's insane, man. That's awesome, man. What'd you give to your art? My eye.
Yeah, my eyeball.
Right. The crazy thing I saw, this was, wow, man, I lived in Iowa at the time. And I don't know if you know who Toshiro Obata is, or, he's, okay. I don't know if you ever see the Ninja Turtles, he was Shredder or Shredder's guy or whatever it was.
Yeah.
But he's been in a lot of movies. But so he was doing a demonstration at Black Hawk College out there. So, I'm going to go see this guy, because he's supposed to be, from reading some of his books and from Black Belt Magazine, he has like, I'm going to use this number, and I don't know if it's accurate, but it's like 100 different black belts and all these 100 different arts. It was insane, Right. And one of them, was he was doing a demonstration on Kendo. So we're watching this. There's probably maybe 30 people in the audience. I'm thinking, these people don't know who this guy is. What's going on? So I'm watching him he's cutting the bamboo, doing the samurai slices and everything. And he has his son. He was an older kid, probably maybe early 20s, holding the bamboo stick, sticking out. And he's just coming down the line, chopping them. And at one point he chopped low, and the kid, I mean, call him a kid, but at the time, he just moved his hand behind his back and still held it with the other hand. And so he chopped whatever. And so after it's all over, the seminar was all over, he's all this great stuff. And so I go up there to get his autograph, and nobody's in line because it's only 30 people in this audience. And I was like, oh, that's amazing with the sword cuts. They were great. And his son just started smiling at me. And I'm like, what is he smiling at me for? He says, hey, you want to see something cool? I said, yeah. He holds up his thumb. His dad nicked the tip of his thumb off with the sword. Oh, and he didn't even flinch. He just moved it out of the way. And I was like, what? That's called a tough dude, man.
It's a tough dude right there. Absolutely.
or his dad would have killed him. I don't know. But man, it
Yeah.
was crazy, man. But it's so fascinating seeing how the arts are out there. There's arts in everything. What
Absolutely.
you done, Kali? What's some other I want to say, you got some unique styles that you study? Anything outside of the norm?
I think that's most of my my exterior ones. Archery, that really Kung Sul, this Korean horseback archery,
Yeah.
and Kali are probably my two most extreme. Then Hamudo is its own just niche pocket of Hapkido, and so
Yeah.
I feel like I'm trying to cover all the bases here.
Okay. Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
it's so much out there, man. Can I know?
right.
You do Kumdo also?
Yeah, so we have. I don't say that I do Kumdo. I would say that I do just Hamudo sword work.
Okay.
We have our own forms, and there is I want to use the word sect. I'm not sure that sect is the right way to say it, but there's a group of Hamudo instructors that have practiced true Gumdo and
Yeah.
hold ranking in it and do the cutting and such. But I'm not practiced up. I think the forms are beautiful, but that's just
Yeah.
hasn't been a priority for me.
Okay, that's all right. Hey,
Yeah,
but just it's swordplay. It's out there. You're
absolutely.
adding different things to you, and that's pretty cool, man.
So
I got another movie for you to check out too.
okay.
Barry Gordy's The Last Dragon.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and it's not Bruce Lee in that one. It's a great old. I actually watched it this weekend with a friend of mine. She's like, "What do you
Nice.
have me watching?" I'm like, "Check this out." She's like, "You're retarded."
Oh
It's
my
a great
goodness.
movie, man. But man, now what's your next step? Are you looking to franchise out?
I want to work on myself, meaning that the school that I'm in now, this is my second brick and mortar. So
Oh, nice.
yeah, I upgraded in 2021 to this location. So I have room here, and I want to keep building. My other real big task right now is to continue to try and grow, I guess, the instructors that are underneath me. And
Okay.
so I am the first one in Tennessee that has promoted the art of Hamido
Okay.
really on this full school scale. And so I now have students in Chattanooga that I'm working with. I have students here in the Franklin area, but then, like I said, I have kids that I've been teaching since they're 3 years old that are now in college and getting married, and so trying to get some of those students that especially became black belts to be promoting the art, and wherever they are now, being able to grow schools for them. So not necessarily trying to franchise myself, because I'm not sure that I'm ready to deal with that headache yet,
Yeah.
but to help maybe promote them to grow themselves,
Okay.
show a path for that. And I also, again, back to this business side of things, that I work with the US Association and the World Hamido Association a lot. And so we're working really to bring that association to the new modern era.
Okay.
And so that's been one of my major projects for the last few years.
Oh, that's a big project, man.
Man,
That's
it's huge.
really big. Yeah, that's really
It's
big, man. Wow. Well, what's the difference in the different hapkido? I know the guy who creates them are different. They have the little twists on certain things, I would assume. Because my hapkido was just known as hapkido under
Yeah.
Grandmaster Young Chin Pak out there in Iowa.
Yeah.
So what's the difference in the different, styles in Hamdudo? I'm sorry, Hamudo. Am I saying that
Yeah.
right, man?
Hamudo, yeah, absolutely.
Hamudo.
So Hamudo, the art of Korean martial arts, and this was Dr. Kim was given approval by his instructors, and so he got to a place where he had worked with Jihan Jae
Yeah.
to develop the Hapkido Bible, and so
Yeah.
Dr. Kim wrote that book, and so a lot of Hapkido schools go by that Hapkido Bible, and that again,
Okay.
it was written with Jihan Jae, so that was a curriculum that was used throughout. He also promoted Kuk Sul. I don't know if
Oh,
you've
yep,
talked to
I
any
do.
Kuk Sul guys. Okay,
I know the art
so
though.
yeah,
Yeah.
the Kuk Sul guys. They so he promoted Kuk Sul when it first came to the United States and helped write the books for Kuk Sul too, the original ones. And so he was given permission, or encouraged, I guess I should say, to create his own art. And when he created his art, he wanted it to be an intellectual art.
Okay.
And so not just techniques, not just forms and sparring and fighting, but really put philosophy and build around this curriculum a more holistic style. And
Okay.
so that's what really drew me into Hanmudo, and it showed the first time I went to the main school, the Handawan we call it, in Baton
Mhm.
Rouge, and seeing, at the time when I was walking into a Taekwondo school, there was, maybe a few third degree black belts, maybe a fourth degree, maybe a fifth degree black belt on the floor. But I showed up to a Wednesday class in Baton Rouge, and there's sixth and seventh degrees on the floor. There's,
Oh, wow.
a lot of black belts just kind of all around. You're like, oh man, this is next level here.
Right, right.
And so the wealth of knowledge that he was presenting, and that he was on his own pace. It
Mhm.
wasn't like you had to go in there and you had to fight hard for 30 minutes and then do this and then do this and stay on this rigid path. It was, hey, there's a lot to learn here. And so you get to start absorbing it. We're going to teach you some philosophy along the way. We're going to talk to you about these things and continue to grow it. But, you can surface level scratch it and put it
Yeah.
right with Hapkido, because
Yeah.
the Hanmudo book is almost identical to the Hapkido Bible that was written for Jia Hanjie, but like the Hanmudo curriculum is way deeper with the forms and, again, philosophy and history and everything involved with it.
That is different. That is really different. So you guys branched out from just a traditional, because a lot of times I'll hear about Taekwondo guys, or I'd say not see, but hear Taekwondo guys when we talk about it. And, and they say they have a Hapkido program, but after you talk a little bit with them, they really don't have a Hapkido program. They have Taekwondo with maybe a sweep here,
Right.
or a wrist lock there, and they're calling it a whole Hapkido program.
Yeah, I think that that's something that's happened, a dichotomy right there, just in the sense of what Hapkido and Taekwondo are, right?
Right.
Or man, I'm jumping all over the place.
That's all right,
Taekwondo, so many words.
Right, exactly.
The Taekwondo programs, especially these successful ones that we see kind of in this modern age, this modern era of Taekwondo, they've capitalized on what Americans want to do as a pastime of sports and being entertained really, really fast, right?
Right.
Achieving goals really, really fast. My kids play soccer, so this seasonal activity, I feel like that's very big right now in Taekwondo. They're always preparing for a tournament. They're always preparing for this, and it's always this fast paced, going. And that's just that it's a business model that has worked really well for them to grow these schools and to help not just grow schools, but to give people a way to make that business,
Yes.
And so, whereas Hapkido on the other side, Kuksul, Hanmudo, these are these non-sport arts, right? That are inherently more dangerous. And so if you jump in here and try to teach someone how to do a low spinning hook kick and they knock the feet out from somebody else and they fall and hit their head because they don't know how to fall, it's a big problem, right? And so you can't, it's not an art that you can quickly teach someone to turn around and teach. And
makes sense.
It makes it harder, right? I think us personally, we are really digging into our traditional roots more in this time of modernization. And in the sense that, hey, I think there's a big movement towards sport. There's a big movement towards this fast-paced life of American culture. And we have to dig back into what we know and say, hey, this is the way things are. Let's sit where we are, and things are going to keep paying attention to us, right? Shows like Karate Kid, they draw people back around to us and say, oh man, you guys are kind of like Miyagi-Do over here. You're doing all this, fancy movement stuff, breathing and such. This is it weird? Is it key? Is it, what's going on here?
Exactly.
Yeah.
But you're right though, man. But on the other side of that, and I look at, and like I said before, I look at Taekwondo, and I'm not bashing Taekwondo by any means. I just know that's the beacon when it comes to success in the martial arts structure, the martial arts school structure, business wise. And I've seen, I think just from history and my old self, coming from back in the day, yes, we always want to say, oh, back in the day we were tougher and all this other stuff. But I think it's gotten watered down a lot. And I think it's gotten to the point where they're trying to make a business, which I don't begrudge that at all. You make as much as you can,
Yeah, absolutely. I think that there's a big separation between you told me before that we're not average, right?
Right.
There's a big separation between the average and the high level masters, grandmasters in all these systems. And so part of this American high-speed version of things is there's a lot of turn and burn, right?
Right.
These people are coming in, and this is a couple of years ago, I stopped doing certain intro specials because I don't want to turn and burn. I didn't like these people coming into my academy for 2 months or 3 months and then leaving, because that's like the worst part, teaching beginners all the time.
That is.
I want high level students that I'm teaching deeper things on, right? So or how to be even better at flying through the air and doing this. And so with this, I think there's probably just some sheer numbers in volume that there's a lot of people that are coming through the base level of these programs and never getting as advanced. And we see that as outsiders versus seeing the people that are going through and being more and more advanced and truly staying certified by the organizations, not creating their own organizations is a whole nother ball game, right?
Yeah.
There's an instructor in Mexico. His name is Professor Sergio Chavez, and I think that he's head of the ITF in Mexico. I think he's the top ranked Taekwondo black belt, and he was talking about how their black belt tests are still presented in the ITF. Is that if a black belt is presenting a form and they have a pause, like just a second that's long enough that they altered their form performance, then that form's a fail.
Wow.
And so, being able to flow through your movements 100% in a high level stress environment, that's something that, again, your 9-year-old black belt generally is not going to be able to do, right?
Exactly.
We're not talking at the same level of performance here.
Yeah.
And we have to kind of accept that in this modern day as we talk about these different people, right? But we are, hey, that person over there that just tested for this belt in Taekwondo in front of this federation that did not make a single mistake, and they can put a foot up to anybody's face and stop it right before it. Like that's a precision black belt right there, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, you're right. I guess. I keep saying, as the podcast is called, "Old Man on the Mat." The old guy looking around, and of course, I think about the old days, and I think we've gotten so as a whole, martial arts as a whole, because of the generations now, we can't be as hard on children as we used to be. As we come up through, we don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. Kids are allowed to quit so many times, and that's, if I say anything about the martial arts, that's one of my pet peeves I see now. Kids are allowed to quit more, and it's not the martial arts problem; it's the parents' problem. No one, are you seeing that in your? I'm not knocking in your students, but I'm saying, do you see that some of the times coming in there, some of the parents just say, I don't want to. Don't be so rough on little Bob. Don't punch him, or don't let him get kicked, or whatever it is.
Maybe I should make the joke with this and say that they're probably not my students anymore, right?
There you go. That's the joke. I like that.
Yeah, I think that there is a huge problem with quitting. I tell a story too that when I was growing up, Boy Scouts was one of the things that my dad really wanted for me. He is an Eagle Scout. His brother was an Eagle Scout. His father was an Eagle Scout. And so it was really kind of loaded on me, this idea that I was going to be an Eagle Scout when I was growing up. So that was definitely something that was devoted, or part of my life and family devoted to it. I did everything I was supposed to do except for my Eagle project.
Oh, really?
I did
That
everything I was
far.
supposed to do except for my Eagle project. And, the problem was that my teenage years got away from me, and you can only do that before you're 18, right? And so I
Right.
can never
Yeah.
go back and get that back again.
Wow.
Um, I think that I would put it some on my parents and some on me, that I was just losing interest and they didn't want to force me to do it. But again, part of that is, man, I overwhelmed by this idea of this giant project and just
Yeah.
didn't know how to get through it. Right.
Yeah.
And I can make excuses all day long, but it didn't get done. So
Right.
I never got that. And that's something that I kind of carry with me, and I try to talk to people and teach about. You can always come back and get your black belt. You can get hurt. You
Mm-hmm.
can come back and heal yourself, get sick, or take time away and come back. But
Yeah.
the time in training and just this lifestyle choice that we make is, I think, more important for the guys that are continuing on and flowing this thing out all the way through. With kids and even adults quitting when things get hard,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think it's not just a problem with the family unit
Mhm.
and the individual. It's also kind of society.
Yeah.
Right
Yeah.
now we're
Yeah.
just in this weird kind of throwaway society that even your carburetor on your on your lawnmower is trash now,
Yeah.
not to be cleaned out, right? And so,
Yep.
this is, I hate to look at martial arts in that way, but I think that a lot of people do, that we're kind of a commodity that, hey, we're going to entertain for a little bit and we're going to
Yep.
maybe learn some things from you, but we're going to move on when they're ready,
Right.
as opposed
Right.
to seeing it as like, hey, this is a baseline. This is what you're going to be more successful in your life because you've done this, because you've established these habits in your life, because you've built your body like a martial artist's body. You've trained hard, you can move, you're flexible, and you can respond well. And so these are all the things that make a good athletic person. So, for example, my daughter's really into gymnastics right now. Hey, you're
Yep.
still going to class twice a week, but you can do other things.
Yep.
And so, she's very successful in gymnastics because I think of her training has gotten her to a place where she's able to learn and also able to move her body. Right.
Right. Man,
Yeah.
I love that mindset, man. But this is what martial arts is supposed to do. This is it. Yeah, you should self-defense. Don't get me wrong. It's all started from self-defense. I don't know how to defend yourself, and then you go into that. But it builds so much character. And but that was that. Like I was saying earlier, that's my problem, putting in quotation marks, that I have with some of the schools nowadays, where you see these little kids and they just get these things, and there's no how do we say hard work involved.
Sure.
Because thinking about you being an Eagle Scout, not making it to that point, that's amazing that you got that far, and you realize, you know what, I can't go back for that.
Right.
That's a lifelong regret. But are these kids going to have regrets when they grow older? I'm sure you hear it too. You find out you're in martial arts. Oh, I did martial arts when I was a kid. How far did you get? I don't know.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
oh,
Maybe as a yellow belt, green belt.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like,
right?
yeah.
But that's the
Absolutely.
funnest conversation I ever had. I talked to a lady, this was a few years ago, and we were just in the grocery store talking or whatever, and I think I had a shirt on with my school on it, and she's, oh, I did Taekwondo. I said, oh, that's awesome. You did Taekwondo? That's pretty cool. And then she's like, I think I asked her the same thing. How long? She's, I'm a black belt. I said, really? What style was it? I don't know. So, and this wasn't too long from the time she said. I thought she would say she was a kid doing it, but
Right.
she was like a couple years ago. I'm like, you got black belt? You don't know what you were doing.
Right.
Go get your money back.
Yeah.
I was just like, oh, really? But martial arts is good out there. And one thing I do enjoy about Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, because that's what I'm doing now. I've done the Kodokan Jiu Jitsu, the Hapkido, I did Kendo. I've done some Filipino fighting sticks with the Scream. I did all those things. But, coming to, at this stage in my life, being as old fart, I said, well, I always wanted to try Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. So I get in there, found the right school. But one thing I can tell you that's a positive I see for the Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, it's not watered down. You know what I mean? And that's not saying other arts. I'm just saying, like their kids program, it is just as hard, and they don't get a lot. They do get kids quit. Yeah. But you won't see a little black belt running around in grocery store, 9 years old. Right. You follow me? And that's what I say, just watching that art. there's trying to stick traditional and continuously making it hard. So when you get a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, what I'm seeing is that, not saying everyone hasn't earned it, but you've been through the ringer. Like wrestling, when you get to a national champion in wrestling, you've been through the ringer. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah.
So are you still training Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu now, or is that something you still train a little bit here and there, or what do you do?
Yeah, I try to stay consistent with it. I definitely am done, I feel like, competing.
Yeah.
And so sometimes when they're getting fired up to go to competition, I might shy away from class a little bit more.
Yeah.
Just in the sense that I'm not trying to go in there and get beat up every class.
Yeah, right.
I think that honestly, jiu-jitsu is, like you're saying, it's a very difficult sport to water down.
Yeah.
In the sense that it's, you got, I'm small, I'm a 150-pound dude. So the average people in classes could be 170, 200
Yeah.
pounds, right? And so
Monsters. Oh yeah.
if I'm fighting those dudes, like they're putting their weight on me all the time, then that's a lot, right? And
Oh yeah.
so it's just a lot more incidentals can happen, and I feel like that's just a balance again of that training. Oh man, it might not be good to get beat down right now. Take another couple days to.
You still have a job to do.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, I agree 100%. I get what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, and I feel like that's okay. That's a realization,
Yeah.
At the same time, the idea of training for your age is such an important thing. I was having a conversation with a newer adult student that I have the other day, and he's very gung-ho moving forward, wanting to learn, wanting to do the things. Oh, you're jumping and doing this. Oh man, let's do that. And it's like, hey, let's build up to that, right?
Right.
I want you to continue being successful as a student. I want the school to continue to be successful by having you as a student. And so you getting yourself injured right here off the bat, that's not going to help this. And
Right.
so, being able to throttle people, especially newbies coming in, that's a big part of the job. I think being a higher level instructor.
Yeah.
I really hate watching. Well, I should back myself up. It's kind of like being a parent and watching your kids fail at something over and over again, and knowing that they need to practice it. But sometimes I do that with my instructors too, as I'm watching them grow and learn and teach things. Sometimes I have to watch them do something that I totally would not do. And, let them experience what happens when that happens. Right.
Yeah.
But, I watched a class not too long ago that was a student training backfalls over and over again. And the new student that was in that class, her legs were scorched, right? Because they did 500 backfalls throughout the night. Then her quads from sitting down 500 times are just completely toast, and she can't walk for a week. And so, it's great that you taught her how to do a good backfall, but now she's not going to come back because she goes, I don't want to do that again.
Right.
And so, it's just, I think that there's there's an element of being a good instructor. There's an element of being a good student in a class too, meaning that, hey, you have to realize that self-defense doesn't just exist outside the academy. It exists inside the academy too. And, if I'm putting myself in a situation, then I need to make sure that I'm somewhat in control of that situation and not get my arm broken or shoulder dislocate, whatever could happen in that situation. And so, the jiu-jitsu game, I think that my take on it for a long time has been just to practice defense. And so, when I would travel and go to seminars or go to visit other schools and such and train with them, me stepping on the floor as a white belt in jiu-jitsu, do I have more knowledge than a white belt? Sure. But there was no formal knowledge at that point in time. So I was happy to wear a white belt, happy to wear a white uniform.
Yeah.
And just, I'm not trying to go for anything. I'm trying to just practice defense and let you try attack me. Right. And
Right.
so once I felt really good with that, then, maybe we can add a little bit more attack to this game. But the same thing goes now, that if I step onto a jiu-jitsu mat, I'm not going to attack the 250-pound guy that's coming at me, right? I'm going to let
Right.
him do his game and give me the holes, versus, the smaller person than me that I can manipulate a little bit more. Then that allows me to be in that more offensive state,
Oh yeah, that makes sense, man. And the biggest thing is, for me, it's ego. You know what I mean? Not ego
Absolutely.
like I'm the baddest guy, but it's ego realizing that I can't do the stuff I used to do.
Absolutely.
And that's painful sometimes. I'm old, but hey, real quick before we get you out of here, man,
Mhm.
I do want to hear just a couple other things, because I like to get perspective, because I love the stuff you're doing out there. What advice would you give someone a little older coming on your mat for the first time, just coming in there for the first time?
Say, listen to the instructor. Actually, I would back it up even before that. When people contact me and talk to me about this, even before they even step through the door, to me, there's a salesness of selling a school, right? Like, hey,
Yeah.
I want to sell my business, but at the same time, you need to make sure that this is what we're doing is right for you, right?
Yes.
That you're going to commit to it, and that you believe me and believe in the instructors here, that we're not going to put you in a situation that's going to hurt you, and we're going to give you information that you want to learn, right? So I think that's just such a big part, that you're jiving with the people that you're trying to learn from, and that you have quality instructors. Then you got to listen to those instructors and trust them. They've been through this before. You are special. You are a unique individual, but you are not special in the sense that you're not the first white belt to walk through the door. And
Gotcha.
so the idea being that, hey, these guys have been here before. They know what to do. They know how to kind of guide you through it, and just let go of that ego saying, I can do this, to being like, okay, hey, they're telling me to just go slow with this, and I have the ability to go slow, right?
Yeah.
Then I feel like the other side of that is they feel like they're letting down the instructor by not doing something, or letting down other people in the class, or not as good as those other people in the class. And, again, those people have already been there days before them, right? And whether it's just one day or it's been 2 years since they came through the door, they have experience that the other person has not have, right? And so it's just, hey, take your pace, listen, and don't rush things.
Gotcha. That's awesome, man. That's great advice. Especially as guys come in there and gung ho. I love what you said. Gung ho want to do all this stuff. It's like, calm down, slow down, bro. Want to keep you out here for a long time.
Yeah, man.
That's awesome, man. But hey, brother, before we get you out of here, man, this has been awesome. I appreciate everything you're doing here. Thanks for coming on for us today. But before we get you out here, tell us how we can reach you, how these guys, this listeners, how they can get a hold of you out there in the best place on earth, Tennessee, how they can reach you and follow you on social media, all the stuff.
Okay. All my social media is the same, at The Harvest Concept, and website, theharvestconcept.com. We have a podcast too, The Harvest Concept Podcast. And so everything's labeled throughout, and easy to find, The Harvest Concept. And then I'm Justin Martin.
Oh, that's good stuff, brother. But man, I appreciate you so much. Guys, listen to this guy. You heard everything he says. He has a great mindset. I love it. I love it. Did I tell you I love it?
Oh, man.